Joining us now, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Adam Schiff of California. Congressman, thank you very much. How big an impact do you think that these text messages and thousands of documents from Meadows have if he's still unwilling to talk and answer questions about them?
Well, I think they have a couple impacts. First, they remind the country just how serious this attack was and frankly expose the hypocrisy of those such as the Fox News personalities, many lawmakers, the former president, in now trying to downplay what was going on that day, because you see the sense of urgency that the president do something as that attack is going on. But it also really helps make the case so clear that Meadows should be held in criminal contempt for refusing to testify. If he's going to provide these messages, which he and his counsel acknowledge there's nothing privileged about, how can he now claim that he can't come in and testify about those messages? How can he go on Fox News and do interviews and say, I can be doing these public interviews, but I can't talk to Congress about it? It's an absurd position to take. And I assume he's taking it because he's being instructed to do so by the former president. But that is, I think, a very clear case of criminal contempt of Congress.
Now, I want to be clear. The text messages that were read and that he's already turned over, they were specifically labeled as not privileged by his attorney. Am I correct in that?
Yes, according to his attorney and to Mr. Meadows, all the documents he gave us were not privileged. If they had been privileged, they would have declined to turn them over, ostensibly. But they acknowledge they're not. And, of course, a conversation, for example, of a chief of staff with a member of the press, how could that be covered by privilege? It can't be. And so the case for him in terms of the Justice Department, I think is a very strong and compelling one that he must be held in contempt.
Now, there is a legal argument that it is not as strong as the Bannon argument for you, because Bannon was not part of the White House. And here you're talking about the White House chief of staff. So legally, do you have a much harder case to prove? And does the Justice Department, if it does proceed, have a harder case with the grand jury? Or does he have a better chance on appeals?
In the most critical respect, Mark Meadows and Steve Bannon are in exactly the same position. That is, they refused to even appear. So they didn't come and assert a privilege. They just basically said, we don't even need to bother showing up. So in that sense, they stand exactly the same way. You're right. Bannon hadn't been in the White House for years. Meadows was the chief of staff. But Meadows is talking about these events. He's talking about it publicly. He's releasing documents to the Congress, at least he had. And he's written a book about this. So if there's anyone who's made the case against Meadows being treated any differently than Steve Bannon, it's Mark Meadows.
Does the Bannon prosecution getting pushed to July of next year give other witnesses more incentive to drag their feet and fight these subpoenas?
I think the most powerful impact, frankly, of the Bannon case was the fact that he was indicted by the Justice Department. That, I think, has had the effect of really focusing the mind of those who might otherwise decide to obstruct, and they're coming forward and they're cooperating. Certainly, we don't like the delay. I don't like the delay till July. There is urgency here. Other courts have recognized that urgency in the litigation over the records that we're trying to get from the National Archives that Trump sued to stop us from getting. The district court took that up almost immediately. The Court of Appeals without any delay. We got two very quick decisions from both. So I wish the judge in that criminal case had moved with the same expedition. We'll see what the court does, whatever judge has assigned the case involving Mark Meadows, if and when the Justice Department brings that case, and I hope the Justice Department will also move quickly.
Some Republicans are pushing back that why not go for civil contempt?
Well, we have to demonstrate, I think, the seriousness of this. This was an armed attack on the Capitol in which people died. And Congress needs and demands answers. And if you're going to have someone essentially say, I'm not even going to bother to show up, that ought to be dealt with the greatest severity we can. We need these people to come in from these text messages. You can see the centrality of his testimony. And I think that merits the strongest sanction that we have available. And
what is the impact, do you think, of Don Jr., publicly he was saying one thing and denying the severity of the, of the insurrection, but privately he was pleading with Mark Meadows. Does it, first of all, suggest that they all were aware that Donald Trump alone could have stopped the violence by asking him to do something about it, pleading with him to do something about it? And what does it say about Don Jr. and the Fox News anchors and all the others?
It says so much. Those few text messages say so much. They tell us that these people understood the seriousness of this attack. They understood that the president was uniquely situated to try to stop it, and that he wasn't stopping it. It was going on for hours. But it also just calls out the blatant hypocrisy where they're now trying to downplay these events. But when you look at what they were saying in real time, you see just how serious they understood this attack to be. So the hypocrisy of it in particular just smacks you in the face to see what Don Jr. is saying now, but to see what Don Jr. was saying then, and to see this conflict between the father and the son, where the son is pleading, and there's been no more unapologetic defender of Donald Trump, the president, than his son that bears his name, and yet here he was begging his father to do something, and apparently without avail.
Do you see the late-breaking story, the decision by the D.C. Attorney General to sue the Proud Boys and others for their role, this civil suit? Is that additive to what you're doing? Does it take away? Could it get in your way?
I don't see how it could get in our way, and I think it just underscores the seriousness of using all the legal remedies possible to go after those who attacked our Capitol and that continue to pose a danger to our democracy. So I applaud all those that are trying to bring about a measure of justice and restitution for this attack and those that were involved in it.
Adam Schiff, Mr. Chairman of the Intelligence Committee, of course, and a member of the Key Committee, thank you so much. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.